Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here. How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, April the 2nd, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, guys, to let you know that we are a family-friendly podcast, at least we try to be. And at the same time, guys, there may be things that might be shown that might be too graphic for younger viewers. So definitely viewers' discretion is advised. So what do we start with? Really some messed up. I don't know how I feel about this, but I want to share it with you guys. So you remember the whole bunch of white terrorists on January 6th that decided to overthrow or try to do a failed coup during the election count? You know, not just Clarence Thomas's wife that is basically reached out to Mark Meadows, and yet that's not an issue, and yet Clarence Thomas is still over that case. But that's not different. Anyway, begin with the white terrorists. So this man that you see here, Lonnie Leroy Kaufman, right, was one of the cases from January 6th. He was just sentenced to 46 months behind bars, which is fairly good. I mean, he will be in prison for a good amount of time. However, when you get to the reason why, this was actually the guy who had a truck, and I cannot make this up. He had a truck filled with 11 mason jars filled with gasoline and styrofoam. He had hundreds of rounds of ammo, several unregistered firearms, a stun gun, machetes, and a crossbow with bolts, just a few blocks away from the Capitol. Now, by what I just described, that's pretty much a small cache of weapons that this man had and was more than likely going to use. And for all those who are wondering about about gasoline and styrofoam, that's basically a Molotov cocktail. Not just what you see on Grand Theft Auto. But when you take that into mind, that he had all of that close to the Capitol, 46 months seems kind of a slap on the wrist. And I'm just saying that because the judge who sat there and said, quote unquote, he had almost a small armory in his truck ready to do battle. In all my years as a judge, I have never had such a collection of weapons. Even though adding that Kaufman spent 2 tours in Vietnam, so he certainly is combat trained. And yet he has been in jail since his arrest on January 6th of last year, but he will get credit for time served, which means he will be sentenced to 3 years probation and mandatory mental health treatment. But here's the problem I kind of have with this. So this man had means, had weapons, had opportunity. Thank goodness he wasn't able to use any of it. But 46 months in this grand scheme of things feels like a slap on the wrist. It really does. Because I guarantee I hate to keep saying this, but anytime I see something like that, I'm just like, the man had a small armory in his vehicle, was combat trained, and yet only got 46 months. But he'll get credit for time served because he's been in jail for already over a year. So let's be honest. In literally 2 years, he could be on probation and more than likely can be back out. I fail to see the justice in that. I really don't. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, like, my mind goes back to the fact he was weapon capable and weapon ready, and yet will only be in jail for now a couple more years. Tell me, I'm like, there's something truly wrong with that. In the grand scheme of things, it's truly wrong. I'm like, why can't we not make sure that this man, I don't know, at least spends to get 8 to 9 years behind bars? Considering the fact that he was basically pulling terrorist actions. I mean, we have people at Guantanamo Bay that's been detained for less. And this fool could possibly be out in a couple of years. Says a lot about our justice system. That's all I'm saying. But the next couple stories I got, I like to call this, Democrats doing things which they should have done at the beginning of their congressional caucus, but decided now because we're on the road to the midterms. Yes, man. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. 5 months in counting. We are on the road to the midterms, and Democrats are panicking. And I'll tell you why they're panicking, because I'm going to say it all the time, even up until the midterm elections. Democrats will have a harder time to convince voters to keep giving them to give them another shot, because they don't have a lot of wins. They don't have a lot of dubs. What the Democrats actually have are a lot of empty promises, some things fulfilled, but the majority of what they aim to do post the Trump era, they really didn't do. We can blame it on Manchin and Sinema, because a lot of it was there because of them blocking it, even though the Democrats had a simple majority. We can blame it on, Biden spending too much time trying to force people under his rule, and as we saw in the midweek review, that now he's basically courting Manchin. So, or we can sit there and argue that the Senate Democrats are not really in line with the House Democrats, because the House Democrats are more progressive. Senate Democrats are more moderate, which moderate Democrats are like Republican light. You have conservative values, but you're just not but you're not considered crazy like the rest of them. But you're just as dense. But with that being said, though, Democrats are moving forward with the clean energy bill. Bill. I said bill. Yeah, there goes that accent. But anyway, Democrats are moving forward with the clean energy bill. And you're probably wondering, why am I mentioning Manchin? Well, congressional Democrats are basically trying to bring him to the table. Why? Because there's a new package that's being rolled out that includes a clean energy bill. Manchin would only get involved, and I wish I could make this up, that he quote unquote says that we have to have funding for more fossil fuel infrastructure as part of the energy crisis. He goes, and I quote, you want to be Europe? You can't leave yourself vulnerable. The U.S. has to be energy independent. You have to focus, you have to have infrastructure to do that, and you can't just shut them down or kill them with 1,000 cuts. Okay. Define stupidity. A clean energy bill, but Manchin will only support it if funding is given to fossil fuels. Where's a banjo when you need one? Because this is why I say, if I'm in West Virginia, at this point, whoever runs against Manchin on the Democratic side will be way better. Because how in the world can you have a clean energy bill, and part of that bill is, well, you have to give funding to fossil fuels? We're seeing right now what happens when you have a country dependent on fossil fuels. We are seeing it now. When's the last time anybody's been you've been to a gas station? Yeah, prices are still high. Yes, especially if you have SUVs and truckers, they're all and high-end vehicles, they're all seeing their pain pump right now. And the one thing you want to do as far as clean energy is to actually give us sustainable, renewable sources of energy that take us off the dinosaur juice. But Manchin, as I've said it many times on this podcast, he is a walking conflict of interest. Keep in mind where he's from. West Virginia, coal miners. Always coal miners. Even though the coal industry is a dying industry, because climate-wise, it doesn't help to burn coal. It does affect the environment. It does actually, it goes, whether or not you believe in climate change, it's real. And coal burning definitely does affect the environment. But you can't tell a state that's basically built its entire infrastructure off of it. And you certainly can't tell Manchin, because, again, as I said before, Manchin sits on the board of directors on a coal mining company. He literally will stop anybody from reaching an office if they believe in climate change or believe that certain things in capitalism actually will affect climate change. We've already seen him do that with one individual. So you can only imagine how he's trying to sit there and say now, well, you have to include it for fossil fuels. No, Manchin, you have to include it because you were lobbied. You were lobbied, bought, and paid for, and now you're again. But this is nothing new with Manchin. Manchin has done this to every bill that the Democrats have put out. But as I've said before, the Democrats don't have a lot of options. They don't. They don't have a lot of options. 5 months less than counting, you need some wins on the board. Biden dropped his progressive agenda and picked up the moderate one. That's why his latest thing to Congress, that you notice there were increases to the defense budget, increases to law enforcement, increases to every other spot what a conservative would vote for or moderate would vote for, but not a progressive person. Because you didn't see anything about family services, you didn't see anything about family maternity or paternity paid leave, you didn't see anything more about increasing the minimum wage, you did not see anything more about helping people in a pandemic situation as far as universal income and things of that nature. You saw none of that. Because, again, they're trying to court voters, but they are abandoning the progressive voters that got them in the office. Because right now, it's not looking too good for Democrats. Because, again, midterm election season, and Republicans will have an easier time convincing idiots to vote for them who have short-term amnesia than Democrats will trying to convince voters that, hey, I know we didn't give you guys all the things you asked for, but we'll get it right this time, we promise. Because now your job's on the line. See, that's the one thing about politicians that I've always sat there and said, no matter if you're Democrat or Republican, when it comes to keeping their jobs, they will press the flesh. They will give you as much screen time. They will answer all of your questions. But this is why I've always sat there and said, we have to change things in the state. Like, for example, we could actually, the state itself could put in a chart that says any representative or senator that we send to the House or send to the Senate to represent our state, if we do not feel that they are representing our best interests at heart, we can do a vote of no confidence and remove them. We should be able to do that. They work for us. At the same time, we also should ban lobbying. We should make lobbying a federal crime. We take money out of politics, you'll see what happens. You give these politicians 2-year terms, same as the 2-year consecutive terms, same as the president. I'm sorry, the president serves 4 years, I apologize. But I mean 2 terms as serving in office is what I mean. 2 terms you can serve consecutively twice. That's it. And if we impose that on every representative, on every senator who keeps running until they just choose not, who can keep running as long as they win and still remain elected, if we change that, imagine the ramifications of what these so-called politicians will do. I mean, shoot, I can't tell you how much time I feel like running every time I see something like this pop up. But anyway, moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story, which again should tell you something. That again, it's another story of Democrats working a little, putting in something that can literally be seen as maybe too little, too late, but something that should have been done a long time ago that's going to benefit a lot of people, and Republicans still voted against it.
A new Politico Morning Consult poll finds that 42% of voters plan to vote for the Democratic candidate in congressional elections this year. 41% plan to vote for the Republicans. 17% aren't sure. Now, those numbers could change if stories like this are presented to voters. Today, every Democrat in the House voted to pass the Affordable Insulin Now Act, which would cap the monthly cost of insulin at $35 starting next year. And almost every Republican in the House voted against that. Every member of the House Republican leadership voted no to $35 insulin. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy voted no. Minority Whip Steve Scalise voted no. Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik voted no. The bill now heads to the Senate, where Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock has introduced a companion bill. Joining us now is Representative Lucy McBath, a co-sponsor of today's bill, who voted yes. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. What will this bill do for people who need insulin?
Well, thank you so much, Lawrence. It's always a joy to be with you. This bill, it's very, very simple in its nature. It basically will just lower drug costs for millions of Americans. About 40 million Americans in this country that are suffering from the chronic disease of diabetes. There's no time off when you live with this disease. It's a constant presence in the lives of, as I said, almost 40 million people, and it influences every aspect of their lives. And so we just know that this is an opportunity right now to help millions of Americans lower the cost of something that they need every single day to survive. And I hope Republicans in the Senate will do what is needed to make life more affordable and this drug more affordable for those families.
I didn't know that diabetes was a partisan issue. Did you hear anything in the Republican argument against this?
Yes, we did. I heard over and over again that, we're not even considering those individuals that are not going to be in, those that don't have insurance, that this policy does not protect those individuals that don't have insurance. But as I said to my Republican colleagues on the floor today, it's like, you're right, it does not. But there again, come to the table, build some compromise, some consensus, help us to do that very thing, to make sure that we're putting forth policy that will protect the lives of every individual in this country, whether they have insurance or not, making sure that they will have access to this life-saving drug and can afford to pay for it.
Well, going forward in the Senate, you've got to pass a bill and then reconcile it with the House. There is plenty of opportunity still for Republicans to do the right thing beginning in the Senate.
Absolutely. And we were, very fortunate today because we did have 12 Republicans that actually agreed with us. So it did make this legislation bipartisan in the House. We're really fortunate that we have Senator Warnock there in the Senate who is championing this very, very vital piece of legislation. And I know that my colleagues and I in the House are going to do everything that we can to make sure that we are encouraging the Senate Republicans to do what's right. Because as you stated, diabetes, it should not be partisan. Republicans and Democrats alike are diabetic.
Okay, so literally and figuratively, yeah, they actually did pass a bill that would basically limit the cost of insulin at $35 or 25% of negotiated price, whichever is less. So for all those who actually are diabetic, that's great, considering the cost of insulin now. I mean, we covered stories back then of people rationing their insulin, of people wondering, people getting insulin from those that may have passed on or didn't need it anymore, because insulin is what diabetics need to live, to survive. And it is amazing to me the prescription drug costs are still as high as they are, that these drug companies and health insurance companies are still allowed to operate as they are. And it's what's more amazing to me is that all Republicans voted against this. Literally a bill that sits there and says that we are going to cap insulin costs at $35 or 25% negotiated price. Whichever is less. We're capping something that literally, in my opinion, should be free. Should be free. Because the reason why I say insulin should be free, because it's life-saving. People who are on insulin, people who are diabetic need insulin. Without insulin, they're not going to be around to voice their opinion. But at the same time, if we can't have free, make it affordable. And that was the whole thing that a lot of these voters are going to be looking at. But again, like I said before, midterm election season. And it's not being broadcasted that every Republican in the House voted against it. It's not being reported. That's the one thing I will never understand. That you would think in something of the grand scheme of things, where whether you're conservative, whether you're Democrat, whether you're liberal, whether you're progressive, diabetes does not care about your political alignment. It doesn't. But you would think there would be a general consensus that diabetic people need this to live, to survive, to live longer lives. And the simple fact of the matter is that you have a group of people in there that have turned around and sat there and said, no, we don't like this. Should say a lot. And if I'm a Democratic person and I'm running for re-election, I am talking about this everywhere. I am talking about with my constituents. I am talking about it on any show that I'm on. I am talking about any podcast or radio show that I'm on. And I want to get out there. No Republican voted for this. Y'all should be, that should be concerning. But again, what also bothered me is the fact that why now? And I said, why now? Midterm elections. Democrats need wins. Democrats need those wins to try to keep or extend their simple majority. They need to have, they're trying to get those wins so bad. And this is something that should have been done at the beginning. Even more so, the next story I have, which again, another bill that the House had passed. House had passed a bill to federally decriminalize marijuana. Federally decriminalize marijuana. The vote was 220 to 204. Of course, the only four people. For 220 204, all Republicans pretty much all Republicans are pretty much against it, except for. And I'm still surprised I'm going to say this. This is going to kill me. Tom McGlinchey, Brian Mast, and Matt Gaetz joined the majority of Democrats, while two Democrats, Henry Cuellar of Texas and Chris Popov of New Hampshire, voted against it. I never thought in this day that Matt Gaetz would actually do something that's actually helpful, aside from, get caught in a sex ring, allegedly. But again, this is nothing new. We have seen bills, especially the Senate, that tried to pass that legislation too, of decriminalizing marijuana. You know why they won't decriminalize marijuana as much as they should? The reason why they won't is because that sets up the golden highway for marijuana to literally and figuratively be legal across all 50 states. I think right now it's only legal in 13 states out of 50. But imagine, like I said before, you decriminalize marijuana, that means that everybody that's ever been locked up or sentenced to a crime involving marijuana, and it wasn't a heinous crime, it didn't involve loss of life, things of that nature, they're free. Their records expunged. But it also does set up a booming industry. I said it best: the war on drugs was always BS, because you try to stop out cannabis, but people, like I said before, cannabis has a lot of applications, not just for recreational use. I've said it before; it has a lot of technical applications as well as things that can be derived from the cannabis plant itself and the cannabis oil, which is shown to be useful medically in multiple applications. But that's what I'm saying. The Republicans don't want that, because if they do that, that means that that means that the corporations that own prisons, especially in states, will lose revenue, because they get paid per every head they have in their jails and the prisons. Now imagine if we expunged all that. That means that because marijuana is not an offense, you have to redo drug tests. Which again, a lot of companies will sit there and say, "Well, if marijuana's found in your system, you can't work for us." That's out the window. So again, they don't want this for the reason why, because that means that not only, I think honestly, there's a lot more pros than cons out of this. But at the same time, I've always said it best: you want to make something mundane, legalize it and tax the crap out of it, and nobody will complain when they see the economic boom that happens. But again, it's a sign of too little, too late. It's a sign of really trying to hurry up and move the goal marks, just because simple fact of the matter that, again, we are 5 months and counting away from midterms. Democrats need to win. Republicans are saying no, hoping the idiots will turn out and those who don't care will stay at home. But moving right along, guys, I did actually want to get to the Ronald Green story, because there is some new evidence in light of a body cam that says that there is more going on than Ronald Green than saying that he simply died on the way to the hospital. And yes, this is going to be extremely graphic, so viewer discretion is advised.
In a deadly police beating that we've been following closely. Ronald Green, you'll recall, was tased, dragged, and beaten after a high-speed chase in Louisiana back in 2019. He died on his way to the hospital. Initially, his family was told that he died from a car crash, but then body camera video was revealed last year showing that was not the case. Here is some of what that police body camera video captured. A warning, it's hard to watch. Now, the Associated Press has obtained audio of that state trooper involved, telling investigators it was he who was scared that night, portraying himself as the victim in a 2-hour interrogation. CNN's Nick Valencia joins me now. Nick, what are you learning from this new audio tape?
Well, Kate, this is haunting audio for the family of Ronald Green, because to them, Trooper Hollingsworth was the principal offender in the beating of Ronald Green. Hollingsworth died after the incident in a single car crash in what some suspect to have been a suicide. But before his death, he sat down for 2 hours with detectives for an interrogation, and in video and audio, exclusively obtained by the Associated Press and edited for brevity, we hear Hollingsworth play the victim. We also hear incredulous detectives skeptical of his characterization of what happened.
I would have tried to use deadly force against him. I only wanted to free my arm. That's all.
Chris,
Sir,
did you have an object in your hand
I don't.
when you?
Can we rewind the video and look? Because I'd like to look. I could have had my flashlight in my hand.
According to this video, at least according to us, it doesn't appear that you ever gave him a chance to get out of the car. I mean, you pretty much run up to the window, and within a second or two, you tase him. How come?
I was in fear that he was going to hurt myself or Trooper DeMoss.
Was he doing anything to indicate that he was gonna fight you, gonna try to punch you?
He was still in control of the
I
vehicle.
understand that. Was he pressing on the gas? Was the car accelerating? Was it?
Not at that point. I didn't mean it to be degrading, and I didn't know how serious the injuries were. But
To remind our viewers, Hollingsworth is seen on body cam footage repeatedly beating Green over the head with his flashlight. We have reached out to the Louisiana State Police, who have been very quiet about this case since handing over evidence to the Department of Justice. But this is what they had to say to us in a statement earlier, saying, quote, "All matters related to the Green investigation remain under federal review. The department would not be able to comment on the investigation or the actions of former employees at this time." Now, earlier, Kate, I did speak by phone to the governor's office, who aren't specifically commenting on this new audio obtained by the Associated Press, but they did refer us to comments that Governor John Bel Edwards made during a very testy press conference back in February, in which he said that those officers' actions do not represent the standards to which all law enforcement officers should be handled. He previously said that Mr. Green was treated in a way that was criminal, and he also said that Mr. Green would have been treated differently if he had been white. Yesterday, I reached out to the family attorney for the Green family. They said that they are limited in what they could say because of a gag order on the case, but they are concerned that the goalposts on this, as they characterize them, are continually being moved. And here we are, Kate, approaching almost 3 years since the death of Ronald Green, and still no indictments.
So again, that's one of those things, guys, that I keep saying multiple times. I say it, the simple fact of the matter is, it's amazing how officers are given such leeway to where it's like you get questioned by your own command. Hey, so did you have a flashlight in your hand while you were beating the guy? I don't recall. Can we watch the video? Because keep in mind, whenever officers are involved in something, they don't have to give a statement that night. They can give their statement days later, while those who are arrested have to give their statements that very same night. Why? Because, they'll just say, well, adrenaline's pumping, things are happening. You want to sit back and recollect, but they have you on video beating the man with your flashlight on your cam from you. This is why I sit there and I say law enforcement has to be held to a higher standard. I mean, 3 years later, they're still trying to figure out how to basically get the cops out of this. I have been saying this when it comes to law enforcement. Whenever something involves law enforcement that's sketchy as all get out, the first job that they have is to justify the use of action for their officers. I'm just saying, unless it's completely blatant, they have to justify it somehow. And if they can't justify it, that's when they sit there and go, you know what? Our discovery of this says that this person was definitely not following the actions and the procedures that were taught to them as law enforcement. Oh, so you mean they're bad cops? How else can you say it? And I feel bad. I truly feel for the Green family because again, they can't say anything because of a gag order. Because a lot of people have found a lot of these officers, a lot of these law enforcement departments out there in the states saw what happened to George Floyd, and they realized public opinion can influence a lot, even when it's completely justified for the world to see. They don't want the same thing for their officers. I wonder why. Why protect more of your officers if they did nothing wrong than go ahead and call a spade and then treat them like criminals? Because officers did cross the line and a man died in their apprehension. Call it what it is and actually treat these cops accordingly like criminals instead of trying to defend them and trying to character assassinate the witness at the same time. Or as black folks, we call it Tuesday, because that's what they usually do to us. But we'll follow that story. We'll follow the story as developments come along. Going next over, Biden has decided that, hey, we're going to open up our own strategic oil reserve and start pumping out barrels. Why? Because gas is high. Yeah, that'll do it.
Biden's big move to push down gas prices, announcing he'll tap America's emergency oil reserve as he put the blame squarely on Vladimir Putin. Our Rebecca Jarvis is going to have more on the impact we're already seeing at the pump this morning. But first, our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, with more on all of this. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Cecilia. Well, the president says this historic step will cause gas prices to drop fairly significantly. Biden announcing he's going to be releasing 1 million barrels of oil from the reserve every day for the next 6 months. That's the largest release ever. The president is also putting oil companies on notice, chastising them for not increasing production here in the U.S. and calling on Congress to fine companies that aren't using their leases on public lands. Now, all of this is an attempt to try to ease some of that pain at the pump and also some political pressure, too. With the midterms now just a few months away and inflation at a record high, the president is now putting the blame squarely on Vladimir Putin, calling this the Putin price hike. But as Republicans and the president's critics have been quick to note, gas prices were already rising before Russia started this war.
So here's the thing. And again, this is why I say sometimes Biden gets it and sometimes he doesn't get it. You're blaming, it's like, well, he's put the blame on Putin because, again, they're raising the price of gas. Well, the president doesn't control gas prices, and neither does Putin. You know who does control gas prices? OPEC, the Saudi Arabia family, and oil companies. They control the price of gas. But I'm going to chastise them. They're not children. I have been saying this on my Facebook post. I've been saying this on my social media. And Robert Reich and so many people have come forward and sat there and said that these oil companies are under no pressure to increase their own production. They are under no pressure to manage their own prices. They are under no pressure to do anything but collect the multiple profits they are getting because of this issue. They are taking this crisis, and these oil companies only have one responsibility: to their shareholders, not to the American public. Which goes back to this whole thing about being dependent on dinosaur juice. Which again, Manchin loves this because he gets a kickback from it. So again, the reason I keep saying this is a problem because this is the thing I said Biden doesn't get. Yes, it was a good idea to start pulling oil barrels from our strategic reserve. Good idea. Here's the problem: oil companies are still going to make a profit, and we could do a windfall profit tax on them. We could also, if they are getting subsidiaries from us, pull their oil subsidiaries. Which again, subsidiaries which is basically saying, well, we're just paying them just in some areas because of doing the cost of doing business. Pull it. I do get the idea of, looking into these land permissions that they say they have for companies not using them, but that's a drop in the bucket. I've always said it best. When you want to go to corporations, chastising them, the only way you're going to chastise somebody is to, quote, pull the money. Once you attack the money, you'll have all the attention in the world. But the one thing I wish Biden would do is go ahead and institute taxes. The one thing I wish that Congress would go ahead and do, specifically Democrats, go after these oil companies. They have plenty. They're not broken. If they were regulated better, if oil subsidy was taken away from them, if windfall profit tax were added to it, not just dropping the gas tax, again, a drop in the bucket, that would change things dramatically because these oil companies are not under any pressure. OPEC will do fine because it has more than enough people to move their oil somewhere else. Russia is the number 2 producer of oil in the world, right behind Iraq. You don't think for 1 second they don't mind going to China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, or even South America. They will find those that'll buy their dinosaur juice. Meanwhile, we have U.S.-based companies who are paying $0 in taxes and collecting money hand over fist. But Biden's going to chastise them, so I guess that means something, as in pretty much nothing. So, moving right along, guys, there is some good news I want to follow because, again, we are still on the Honorable Kajani Brown Jackson watch because, again, Monday will be the final confirmation vote to see if she will be the first African-American woman to be put on the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. We are still following up on Lisa Cook, who may be the first Black woman to be elected to the Federal Board of Governors for the first time in its 108-year history. And I have been saying this all the time, guys, that literally representation matters. Even more so that when they see it, it's seen. Once it's seen, it's emulated. As the story about this young girl, which kind of feels like a feel-good segment, and I kind of wish I did keep it that way, but it's fine. She truly, I mean, if you don't believe in perception, if you don't believe in the fact that representation matters, watch this.
Notion that you have to see it to be it. And we came across one young lady who was putting that notion into action. She was highlighting those who are an inspiration to her and in turn inspiring a younger generation. And a shout out to the celebrity who took notice.
And what was her name? Her name is Eric Jackson.
At just 6 years old, Savannah Callender is already dreaming big. Empowered by role models across multiple fields, this first grader is already pondering what she can do to be another first.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities.
Representation matters a lot when she sees them. She identifies with them, and it kind of like gives her this sense of like amazing autonomy that one day she can eventually be any of these women.
For the second year in a row, Savannah dressed up as an inspirational Black woman and presented it to her class. This year, she sported a white coat and stethoscope as a nod to Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, a pioneer behind the Moderna vaccine. She places the images along with little facts about each woman in a book for her classmates and tells us she hopes to serve as an ambassador to these women's stories. Stories her mom says many children may not be aware of.
Did you recognize any of the people that she talked about?
Even though these are people that we have conversations about in my family, maybe it wasn't necessarily happening in all families.
Did you enjoy her presentation, everybody?
After giving her presentation, we had a little surprise for Savannah.
Hey Savannah, it's Simone Biles. I saw the picture you dressed up as me for Black History Month, and I'm so honored. I just loved it. You sound like a real inspiration yourself. So thanks again, and remember to always stay true to yourself.
You want to see it again? Oh my goodness.
Children are often asked what they want to be when they grow up. But for Savannah, thanks to her iconic roles, she's not thinking so much about what she wants to be, but who she wants to be. Not just for dress up, but for the future.
Now you gotta really practice, because now Simone Biles knows who you are.
Now, I thought that was pretty cool, just because, like I said before, representation matters. Even more so that she's actually teaching other kids that may or may not know who most of these historical figures are. Living legends, if you will. And like I said before, I think it's cool that she learns, because this is the whole point. Honestly, it's like somebody's going to sit there and say, oh, it's critical race theory. It's not. It's literally being aware of other history that isn't white. But again, it's called basically being aware. Culturally aware makes you a better citizen of society. But I just love the fact that she got extremely hyped when she saw Simone Biles come on there and really inspired her, which is what we all should be doing anyway. But some other news before we get to our feel good segment. I did want to cover this. Amazon finally has one spot that's unionized. Staten Island, New York workers did vote to unionize, marking it the first U.S. site that actually now is going to be unionized against Amazon. And of course, it was again, for all that good stuff. Amazon, of course, decided that they did have a statement, which is still funny. We're disappointed with the outcome of the election in Staten Island because we believe having a direct relationship with the company is best for our employees. We are evaluating our options, including filing objections based on the inappropriate, undue influence by the National Labor and Relations Board that we and others, including the National Retail Federation and U.S. Chamber of Commerce, witnessed in this election. Yeah, that sounds like a sore ass loser, doesn't it? But then again, this is what I keep saying, that we've gotten so far. We used to have a lot of unions in this country. We don't have as many unions as we used to, because a lot of people actually dropped the unions and tried to negotiate directly with the companies and things of that nature. I have been saying this for the longest time. If you're a part of a union, don't ever let it up. Unions make corporations nervous, and they should, because corporations don't believe in this thing called accountability. They don't. There's not a corporation out there in the world. I don't care. I mean, I don't care if it's Starbucks. I don't care if it's Amazon. I don't care if it's Target. You want to be a part of a union, because any company that sits there and says, oh, we don't need a union, we're like a family, run. We're not a union. You guys should be able to come to us and tell us your issues. Again, run. We believe in a work-life balance. Really run. Because again, unions gave us so many things that corporations would not have given us if it wasn't for a union. And Amazon is a shining example of why a union's needed. Because Jeff Bezos, when he was a part of it, built it from the ground up, was running it, he ran it off the backs of burned out employees who literally risked their own health because of bathroom breaks they couldn't take, or packages they tried to deliver in the middle of the night or in the middle of nowhere. He got rich. He and his shareholders got rich while his warehouses turned into basically employer burnout central. So yes, he may not be running the company now, but there needs to be a union that Amazon has to answer to. And that's the thing I keep telling people. There's no such thing as a bad union, but you see what happens when you don't have a union. So with all that being said, we're definitely going to follow stories, because with that being said, with Amazon in Staten Island having a union, of course, the previous one in Bessemer, Alabama did not go well, but that's still being reviewed. And of course, Amazon now saying, well, we're going to fight that. If a corporation fights this hard, hires different type of practices for anti-union busting, when they do all this to make sure you don't have a union, there's a reason. They don't like them, because that means they have to be accountable. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of things that are accountable, last two stories I have. Again, the one thing I kept saying about the LGBTQ, because they're going to have it rough in a couple of states, especially the South, especially in Florida. Because guys, remember when I talked about Governor Ron DeSantis signed his Parents' Rights and Education Bill, also known as the Don't Say Gay Bill, which has been coined by? Well, it's already having some fallout. Reason being because a group of parents in Orlando, Florida, demanded that a 6th grade teacher be removed or consequences. Why? Because he acknowledged his marriage at school. That's actually not the person there, but that's actually the person down here. So Mr. Robert, and we're going to go with that. So Mr. Robert pretty much told his 6th grade class that he is getting married, which is nothing wrong with that. But the reason why they said he married a man. And because he sat there and told them that he is marrying a man, and with this 6th grade class, it was quote unquote not appropriate. Many of the students felt very uncomfortable with the conversations and shared this with their families. So let me get this straight. You're going to sit there and tell me, I'm not saying, I'm trying to be nice about this. I'm not saying, for the simple fact of the matter, that a 6th grader went back to their family and said, hey, so Mr. Robert's marrying a man. He's what? He's marrying a man. He told you that? Yes. So he just sitting there telling y'all that he just married a man and he's supposed to be teaching y'all stuff. Well, that's not gonna fly. See, that's the story. I see going like that. But most kids, as I said before, most kids are more accepting of things than parents are. More kids, not just parents, adults. But that's what happens with this Don't Say Gay bill. Because part of the conditions of this bill is that from kindergarten to third grade, that discussions on gender, on race, or on sex, or things of that nature cannot be discussed from kindergarten up to third grade. And we're already seeing people suing for this bill, teachers getting fired over this bill, teachers quitting for this bill. And I said it best. I said, here's the problem you're going to have with this bill. Because what if little Timmy on share day has to share a report about his family? How does the teacher handle that when little Timmy says he has two moms or two dads, or one of his parents is binary, or one of his parents are non-binary or cisgendered, or poly, or things of that nature? What if they say something where a teacher goes, "Oh, no, Timmy, you can't say that. We can't say that in this classroom." He's like, "But the report's about my family." That's the problem with these type of bills, because no matter how you cut the mustard, they didn't. He said, of course, Ron DeSantis, does it say gay anywhere in the bill? No, but we know where it targets. Just like Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow wasn't an actual person. Jim Crow were laws that were dictated and aiming at Black people trying to vote. Just because you didn't sit there and say, well, these are votes to keep those Negroes from voting, doesn't mean that the outcome and the intention wasn't the same. In the same sense with the next story I have, Arizona governor who signed transgender bills can't sit there and acknowledge that transgender people exist. Governor Ducey, I keep on wanting to say douche. Because I'm like, he looks like a guy who he looks like a guy with a face you can punch, but also looks like a douche. But anyway, Governor Ducey has signed 2 bills limiting transgender rights. However, when he asked, do transgender people actually exist? He sat there and says, quote unquote, I am going to respect everyone, and I'm going to respect everyone's rights, and I'm going to protect female sports, and that's what legislation does. Yes, this man right there who signed 2 bills limiting transgender rights won't acknowledge that transgender people exist. This is the type of ignorance that is in most state legislation. We should not be surprised by this. We should be appalled by this. And especially if you're a parent of a transgender child, you're worried. I can imagine some transgender parents some parents who have transgender children are leaving states for the safety of their child, because all this protect women's rights. Look, you're not even worried about protecting women's bodies, but you're caring about women's rights. I can say it, but I'm trying not to catch up. I'm trying to limit my language. I'm trying to limit my language on here, but it makes no sense. And this is the tip of the iceberg. This is why, I tell people, don't ever say that you don't care about current events. Don't ever say that you don't care about what's happening out there, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that, for the simple fact of the matter is, that's what they bank on. They bank on the fact that you don't care to get away with this, only for you, who says they don't care, could months later look at something new and go, when did this go into place? When you didn't care. Because that's what happens when you get folks like that who believe that their way is right, and they want to force people to live under it because they believe their way is right. Those that don't care always find out at the end that they do care. But moving right along, guys, I did want to get to our feel-good segment, because usually how the Frack we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you want to lose your mind and make you lose faith in humanity. But hey, it is the weekend. It is a nice weekend for once. But more than that, we want to leave you guys on some positive notes to give you a little feeling, to make you think like, hey, not everything is all bad. Introduce some positivity. And I hope I do so with these stories, especially this one, about why it is so important, especially if you're a Black man and you're in a place that doesn't have a place that can cut your hair. It is so nice to finally find that barbershop, because it's more about cutting hair.
Luther College in Decorah, Iowa is making sure students of color who struggle to find a barber locally are able to get a proper haircut. A unique opportunity has been available to students for over a year now, all thanks to a traveling barber.
This is a nice gesture of his. KTTC's Sarah Gannon took the trip to Luther to check it out. And Sarah, what did you find?
Well, Tom and Caitlin, we all know how good it feels when you walk out of a hair salon with a fresh cut, but for some people, at least in our area, it can be more difficult to find a stylist or barber who is experienced with different hair types. And that is a challenge some Black students at Luther College have been dealing with in the past.
There's not very many different haircut spots available in town.
Decorah is a smaller community, and to find a barber experienced in cutting Black hair,
Having a haircut always feels nice when you're competing. Just to, I guess, look good, play good.
some students have to drive the hour and a half to Rochester.
I just love to see the smiles and, the things that I do. Like I say, it's, I have a lot of experiences, and I just want to give back in any way I can.
Luther College saw the need for students of color to have a proper haircut and have been working with Gil Jordan, a barber based in Rochester and Winona.
It's nice you get to talk to Uncle Gil. When they send us the appointments, we all we all try to get there as quick as possible. Everybody, we all text each other and let each other know what days he's coming.
Jordan makes the drive to Decorah every other Monday to provide these students free expert haircuts and a sense of community.
I just think it's needed. I think in communities as well, where people can get together and kind of be able to relate and stuff like that. It builds communities and builds people also.
Jordan says his chair also provides students with someone outside of school to talk about family, school, everything else in between.
So that's been my thing, to kind of get back. I haven't had the best life growing up and stuff like that, so I kind of know how it's needed, and especially I have a male figure to talk to.
Jordan hopes to keep providing haircuts for Luther students for years to come. He also makes trips to UW Stout to give students haircuts and hopes to expand his work to other schools in the future. Okay.
So that's the reason I keep saying, guys, and I know it's kind of been many moons since I got my haircut, but that's the reason why it sticks with me. It sticks with me because it's not just about getting your haircut. It's actually about finding a community, finding a spot to where you can talk amongst men, and just, you have that home connection. That's really all it is. It's what all a barbershop is. A barbershop is basically a man cave with a barber. Well, a man cave with a barber that you got to pay. But again, when I was getting my haircut, it's, as you can see, it's kind of been a while since I've been anywhere near a barber. Yeah, I know. I'll fix it later. But again, it's always nice to see that someone is actually trying to make a difference, doing an act of kindness, and basically keeping a lot of guys really grounded by being able to go to a place where they can chill, where they can relax and get a cut. Because from what I've been told, when you got a fresh cut, you be hearing just, you be hearing I'm the man playing in the background somewhere. Anyway, moving right along, guys. You wonder how hard it is to be in a pandemic? Wonder if you're alone? Wonder if you can actually find love? I know I sound like an infomercial right now, but again, this next couple I'm about to show proves that you can find love with a click.
Decided to swipe right, Cherie had plenty of company.
So many options.
Fortunately for Cherie, one of those was a New Jersey businessman who was also looking for a mate.
Me being in Philly, him being in Jersey, we didn't know if we could even cross state lines. Our dating really started with FaceTime and Zoom.
You don't get to see each other, to smell each other, to be able to really sort of size each other up. So how do you break through that screen?
We communicated for months. Now, my bedtime is 9 o'clock. By 9:30, I'm starting to fade, but we're on the phone 10:30, 11:30 at night, like we still in high school.
Video dating, says Cherie, forced her to be her most authentic self.
Without me being able to go and get facials and get my eyebrows arched and all the things that I would normally do to prepare for dates, I was seeing him in a very natural, a very raw way.
2 months later, masked and feeling relatively safe because of the quarantine, the two took a chance on an in-person dinner at Cherie's house.
There's a violinist playing in the corner, there's a chef in the kitchen, there's a Mason D.
You know how to create a date.
A year later, Cherie and Tracy walked down the aisle.
We were destined to be together for sure.
So again, I just thought it was cool. They had a whole relationship on Zoom and FaceTime and wound up getting married. So hey, it is possible. The last story I got, guys, again, it's one of those things, like I said before, the pandemic has changed us in so many ways. A lot of people have started, a lot of people looked at their jobs and said, bump this, I'm out, and actually became their own bosses. Some people have, became creative and been on TikTok and developed a whole bunch of new stuff. These two women decided that there was a need for a service that really wasn't being offered in a place that you think it was, and that became their business.
Twin sisters losing their jobs on the same day during the pandemic, creating a new company after wondering how come no one else thought of this. Here's ABC's Rebecca Jarvis.
LaShawn and Rayshawn Middleton grew up outside of Baltimore, Maryland. The twin sisters worked in the restaurant industry as servers until they were laid off from separate restaurants on the same day.
Time went on and it was like 5 months, 6 months, and we had to move back in with our mom.
This new reality allowed the sisters to consider a completely different path.
It's like a reality check almost. Are we going to go back, or are we going to create an opportunity for ourselves? So when COVID happened, it forced us to do something different.
That something different was RNL Crab Company.
So we're going to throw in some crabs. We use beer. Yeah. We don't use water like traditional places.
A business born out of necessity and a love of, well, crabs.
How did you come up with this business idea?
It was a rainy day and we were craving some crabs. We eat crabs about 4 or 5 times a week. And we started Googling crab delivery and we noticed no one delivered crabs, which was weird because we're in Maryland. It's kind of our staple dish. Yeah, and then we thought we should do it.
The twins invested about $600 to start cooking in their mom's kitchen. It wasn't always smooth sailing.
All finished here.
But now, 24 months later, they're about to open location number 2.
I now have this amazing business that I love so much. I'm just happy.
Our thanks to Rebecca Jarvis.
So again, that was pretty cool. Like I said before, she does got a point. You would think in a seafood area that they would actually have a crab delivery service, but that just goes to show you folks, if you have something, you can find a way to make it work, and make it work you shall, because I truly believe in working for your dream and not working for someone else's, because at the end of the day, it's something that's fulfilling and not something that just gets you by. With that being said, guys, that's going to do it for our podcast. But before I do get out of here, I want to do some shameless plugging as I usually do. Want to first start out with the guys over at Geek Salad. RE and Gee present Geek Salad for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. There are a couple of guys I've met last year and definitely don't like talking with them. They do talk about things inside of pop culture as well as out, through a unfiltered but a very intelligent open forum type of discussion. Really intelligent guys, funny guys, love talking to them, but definitely check them out. REA and Geek present Geek Salad on Facebook as well as YouTube. Also, shout out to my boy Bond, who'll be coming back very soon with his own podcast. The Bond Westman on Facebook and Big BZA on all socials, where you can find the Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., as well as the REF podcast every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. But definitely check him out. The Bond Westman on Facebook and Big BZA on all socials. Now, aside from that, guys, my Black Fox channel is 447. Black Fox 447 is where you can find me on Instagram, as I usually do post a lot of reviews from video games to movies, television, also some gym stuff, because, I do a couple push-ups. Also, at the same time, guys, I am all about positivity and moving things forward. We have had a rough couple of years. So in 2022, it's all about being positive, being focused, finding your goals, finding something you're passionate about, and just basically living life from there is all I'm trying to do, and hopefully can inspire others to do the same. The last things we got to mention before we call it a day, guys. Again, COVID is real. Please wear a mask. Please, again, protect yourselves as you're out there, because yes, the numbers are going down, cases are going down, but again, we've been here before. We have to protect ourselves in order for these numbers to go completely down, but it's not just about just not trying to not catch Big Musty, as Tony Baker loves to say. I don't want to catch Big Musty. But at the same time, guys, we still have people that still need to go to the hospital for life-saving treatments. I'm talking kidney dialysis, blood marrow, diabetes needs, things of that nature. These people's appointments are being pushed back because COVID beds are taking up space. Once less people are in these hospitals, those people can go in and get the life-saving treatment they need to lead happy, long lives. But The last thing I'll say about how the Frack we got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds, persuade people. We are simply giving you all the information and allowing you to make up your own mind, but we're providing a logical perspective as well. We do a lot better in society once we're informed. We're progressive, we move forward, we try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like hopefully very soon electing our first Black Supreme Court justice, electing our first Black governor on the federal board of governors, and on top of that, just showing that representation matters. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we ask ourselves many times, how in the world are we still in the same position as we before? How has everything gone up except our paychecks? Why are we still electing different type of politicians, beginning the same old runaround? And most importantly, how the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about everything we discussed tonight. Aside from that, take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.